The following podcast is most likely unlistenable, unintelligible, inarticulate, and problematic, and will probably ruin your day. But if you have any pity in your big red heart, you'll listen to these four handsome boys. Bro, please, bro, please, they need this so bad. Please, just listen. I'm begging you, please. I'm on my knees. Just listen to them one time. I beg you, please. I will pay you. Please, just do it for them one time. I beg of you.
It's like, man, I don't know. And sometimes you go downtown and you're like, where are these people come from? Where do they come from?
Yeah,
Like, I've
agreed.
never seen these people before in my life. It's like when you go to like specific nights, like I don't know. I remember like when we were in when me and Amanda lived in Kingston, we would go to like emo nights or whatever, just like to see what the vibe was at certain bars. Like or like certain clubs or bars would have like, oh, we're having like a punk night or we're having like a 2000s night. And you'd go to like something like an emo night or a goth night. And it would be like, where did these people come from? It was like actual like vampires Bala. It was like
Yeah,
all these like, where did they come from out of the woodwork? It's like I never see these people on the street. And this I remember that with Guelph too. Is like you would go to the bars and you'd be like, where are you people during the day?
yeah. Like,
Like,
why aren't you like that? Like, how don't I pass you somewhere?
right?
Like, we
It's
live
like
in the same city.
I'm out and about doing stuff, and it's like, how have I never run into half the people that I see in line
Yeah,
to some of these
agreed.
clubs? Like, it's crazy. Some people just need to stay home, I think. I think people just should just stay home, keep to themselves. Guelph should be more of a ghost town. I've always said there should be more of like the Wild West. I should be able to see at least like a tumbleweed blow by,
No,
right? And more saloon doors, I think would be good.
a lot more saloon doors.
Back to Post Unavailable. It's the podcast for media magnates by media magnates. I'm of course joined by Matt Ryder,
Hello.
my friend from years stuck through this whole thing for a long time, this crazy thing we call life. And we're just gonna talk about some of the stuff we got working on because Matt he has a fucking an empire, I would call, from the Inside Studios, FTI Studios. Would you call it the modern Machinima?
You know, it's actually really funny you said that because I was in Toronto for Fan Expo and someone was wearing a Machinima hoodie and
Oh,
it
that's
brought
awesome.
me back,
That's
man. Like
crazy.
I was just like, because like I know like we all grew up in the same YouTube era, like Raylan
Yeah,
Jones and Smosh Machinima, and
yeah.
seeing somebody just like, wear it and now like this generation of kids and like teenagers have no idea what it is. I was like, oh my god. So
That'd
it's
be crazy. That'd be crazy if
yeah.
like Smosh becomes the new Nirvana, and it's like just random people are wearing like Smosh shirts that they found at a thrift store, and you're just like, oh, name 5 Smosh videos right now. You're not a
Brother.
true fan. There's gonna be like skater wannabe like poser skater girls wearing equals 3 merch. Like that's the future that I would love to see coming
That's what
soon.
I'd be scared of, like, in the windows of, like, a T-shirt time or an RD when you're like, "I wanna pretend I'm an original YouTuber," and it's like, "Buddy, you were not alive back then." But to answer your
You
question,
weren't
if
in the
it
pits.
you were in the pits. To answer your question, if it's a modern Machinima, I hope not in the way that how Machinima went out, but I can definitely thank you for that, like, comparison because I definitely see, like, the crossroads there, or I guess how it
Yeah,
connects.
I guess, like let me exit, hold on something. I guess, like, yeah, for background, it's like it's a media it's just kinda like a community thing, right? Where so it's like there's local creators probably in every single small town, every single everywhere, and so you've pretty much just, like, reached out to people you knew that were doing small stuff, a lot of people in Guelph too, which is, like, the small town that we're from in Ontario, and kinda put together, I don't know, a network basically, um, that is just based it's built on just promotion and trying to share people's stuff and just showing things, and which is like again like the bare minimum for something like that. But we were involved with it from post unavailable. We Well, because like we started, I'm trying to think, because we started at like around the same time, because we did post
Yep.
unavailable in we started in February of 2020, like
Yep.
right before COVID. Um, and then I don't remember. I think like we had seen you posting it because like I don't know. I'll let you talk about it, but like you always have had something you've been trying to do or something going on
That I get that
content
so
wise.
much. I
Yeah.
yeah, I get that a lot from like especially mine and your like mutual group. Um I remember specifically actually because I remember when Post and Available first started coming out, and then I remember when I was trying to do something with my graphic design. I went from building a website to show my graphic design to an Instagram page where I tried to upload cartoon art every day. And then I
Okay.
remember when I launched from the Inside Studios in April of 2020. I remember specifically I made you that graphic where it looked like a text message was happening between two people. I have it still.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. I think I still have a lot of the old designs that you've sent. Yes, okay, I do remember that. Yeah, because we started and then I remember I think you probably reached out because you were just I think you were just if like not to just to put to my perspective of it, like it seemed like you were just trying a lot of stuff because you were yeah, you were doing
yeah.
the graphic design thing. So I think you reached out. Um yeah, because okay, yeah, you did the graphic design thing and then you had a fashion
I
line before that. You had
I Fuckboy right out of
yeah, fuckboy
2017.
fashion. I
Yeah,
forgot
and
that literally just I haven't thought about that in so long until just now.
dude, this is like the one thing I think I say, and I think I've said it on honestly quite a bit of like FTI community, like content creators podcast, like Mega Man, like Geek and Eero, and I probably said it on past post and available sessions. Is I was doing FTI without having FTI, if that makes sense, because when I did Fuckboy Fashion, we did a concert, Living the Dream Fest in August of 2018. But I remember specifically
Right.
I didn't wanna sell clothes at it, I just wanted to put my friends who I went to high school with on a stage, and then
Cool.
I did
Okay,
poor
yeah.
decisions. Yeah,
So it's always you've always kind of wanted to do more like content networking, kind of like that, because it's like that. It's the easiest thing to do, and it's like people want to make. If people want to make stuff, they're still gonna go to these things where they can make stuff and they can share what they've done. If that makes sense, like
that makes sense, yeah.
because it's yeah. I'm just trying to yeah, because you sent I remember you sent the graphic designs and then it started like rolling then it started getting the ball rolling and we started like seeing like you were sharing a lot more different creators. So it's cool to see that that's still going. Um I guess like walk us through the history of it a little bit
Dude, of
from
course.
like 2020.
So,
Because we started and then yeah, then you started kicking off around then.
like, I'll do 2 timelines, but if I talk way too long on the first timeline, just literally say,
Yeah,
"Alright, go to the second timeline." The first timeline, I'm gonna jump through a lot of different
I'm
months,
setting a timer.
years,
No,
seasons.
I'm joking.
I, uh, I remember the first thing I did when I started FTI was since it was lockdown, we took advantage of hashtags, so I did, like, hashtag independent artist, music creator, any kind of art thing. Started building the small circle. I remember that the first person I reached out to that I didn't know was One Eyed Bandit, Julia Snyder. And then I remember
Yeah.
specifically that November, so we're in November 2020 now, when we had Entity finally narrating the newsletters week by week by week. We were going into the glacier season. And I always remember Entity would go like Animatic Entity, welcoming you to newsletter 5, presented by the Post Unavailable podcast. And then a snippet of the Post Unavailable podcast would be after the newsletter.
Yeah.
And then you and I would always collaborate on the story post. So like you would have one for your main wall, but FTI would have one for our story. So like jumping through like millions of multiverses and dimensions right now. You met like Nahome through that, and you guys became like really close in terms of like all the post unavailable boys and him, and then like Ero knew you, you knew Ero. So like you guys built a community within FTI. So like post unavailable and FTI
Yeah.
was like a success story because not only like were
Okay.
you guys
Damn.
prominently
I
featured,
wouldn't say
yeah,
that at all. I would not say that at all. No, for like from my point of view, and you didn't have to just focus on us because there's a lot of really cool guys and involved in that circle. But it was really cool because it was like we were doing it. We started doing the podcast just because it was like a good excuse to talk to each other, and it was just also happened to happen during the pandemic, which we didn't think that was gonna happen. I think like there's episodes where we're like, oh, it's week 3 of the quarantine, and then it ended up
Tuesday we'll
going,
figure it if we end.
yeah, right, and it's like there's gonna be an announcement like in a month, in a week, that'll say what's happening. But then yeah, no, that went on for years. So then yeah, so we just kept doing it. But then yeah, it was cool that like you were doing your stuff because then I was like, oh, this feels like everything with Post Unavailable always kind of felt a little, it was fun because it was kind of a LARP, if you know what I
Mhm,
mean? We were kind of like
mhm.
pretending that we were these like LA content creators who like were part of like, oh, we have like we have an MCM that's FTI. They're like doing all this stuff. Like you were our it felt like you were our Rooster Teeth almost. We
Yeah,
were
yeah.
like "Oh, this is fun." So, like, "Oh, we can, like, collab with some of the people that are involved." Because then it was easy because it was like, I mean, really, it's always been a hobby. It, like, became a hobby and became really fun to, like, do the things that's involved with podcasting and with, like, content creators. Like, "Oh, like, okay, well, there's these guys that kind of, like, might match our vibe and are actually putting stuff out." So it's like FTI was an easy way to just connect and like just do some fun stuff that like we would never do. Like we would never like talk to, yeah, like you said, like Nahome and Ero and Geek and just like all the other people that are on there. Like it was cool to do stuff like that because it's like when else would you really do that? Right.
And especially, like, getting even if they weren't, like, a featured guest, like, even having them, like, narrate, like, the opening, like, the cold
That was
open,
fun. That was something for me.
disclaimer. Yeah.
That was always something I was like, I want to just make this a little exciting every week and try to bring some new people, which I haven't done in a long time, but I have a big catalog of a bunch of them, so maybe I'll get some more in there. We'll see.
A and pretty wicked how this came about because it was literally, I would say, like, 25, 26 hours ago when you and I decided, like, "Hey, let's do this," and then a day
Well,
later, we're
so
like, "Oh, it
I was
fits
gonna,
in."
yeah, I wanted to talk about, well, yeah, I guess I was gonna talk about that because I we did post unavailable up to my plan with it was always like I want to do it like every week because it like keeps me scheduled and keeps me like, again, it's part of that LARP where it's like no one's making me do this. No one's making me like hit deadlines, but in my head, I always had deadlines. It was like I want to get them done
Yep.
like every weekend. I want to do them like have them done by like Wednesday. I want to get them out on the same day. And if they don't come out, then I want to like put something out, even though like no one like really no one cares. There's like 3 people that might be like, oh, there wasn't an episode. But for me, it was like, oh, it's fun to kind of like live that that LARP that you're like this content creator. But we were good at it and it was like fun and like it was fun to do until I think like we were I always wanted to do like 300 episodes because I was like that's easily like a good amount of years to do,
Mhm.
and then after that I can just say it's about done. I think we were getting close to like 200 and things were just like getting really hard because we were all like splitting off. Like Marchin has a job where he's like traveling a lot. I was going to like Africa for a month.
Yep.
Um so things were just like getting really obviously crazy, which I mean like we didn't, yeah, like you never planned for, but like obviously that was going to happen eventually. So we did. The cool thing was we managed to get to 200 and then we were like okay, well why don't we just like, because then we did a couple episodes after, but like there was this kind of like weird spot where like me and Amanda were going to come back home to Guelph. We were not gonna like I wasn't gonna worry about doing anything. I just wanted to relax after like doing content. And I was like, I don't want to do anything. I want to just like make sure our move to England goes well
Yeah.
and just, figure things out. So then I was like, you know what I'll do though is I'll go back and I'll just like unnumber everything we did post 200 and just make 200 kind of the last numbered episode. But then we stopped. So then we just kind of took a break. We were like, you know what? Like, I don't want to stress out about like editing. I don't want to do anything. I just want to like get my life set up a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and so back to you, it kind of coincided with like wanting to do this again and like wanting to like start up the hobby again with FTI coming back, which I hadn't even really realized was on a break. It kind of just seemed you guys petered out naturally. So I don't know if you want to talk on that
Yeah, man.
a
It's
little bit.
actually really crazy because like the timeline you just described on your end was actually kind of like the timeline that like I had in my head. Like not necessarily like well no that no full transparency. I felt like I had to instead of I want to, like with
Mhm.
meeting like deadlines, weekly deadlines, because like for those people listening who were familiar with FTI, the behind the scenes of it was honestly mentally taxing. Like FTI for 3 years was text to video, so you weren't being spoken to. Someone was narrating something, which means I had to write like 5 pages of a newsletter, which like some people are like, yeah, only 5 pages, but like the amount of like rough drafts and like I was working with Entity who lives in New Zealand. So like I had to get him the newsletter edited for him to narrate by like I'd say like 3 days before. And then that was just the newsletter. So then I had to plan for the next week. And the next week on the Monday was always Good Morning with Artie and Grayson. So I had to prepare Artie and Grayson like a Monday through Saturday, who's doing what in the community schedule. But I also had to write about a creator of the week. And so like it was so mentally taxing having to write all these articles, having to plan for the future week, and just having to like make sure that if the newsletter wasn't made exactly like you, I had something in its place because I felt like I owed it. I had to. And
Right. But it's
so
like, yeah. Do you feel like if you ever stopped that like entity or any of these people would they'd be like, oh shit. Like
you know what's
like
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, sorry. You know what's actually really crazy, brother, is so last August, like not August 2024, August 2023, the Geek Slays was the last thing on FTI's wall doing the community catch up. And then I said, okay, guys, we're gonna take a week break and we'll be back after. And then FTI was just done. It was finished. I
Yeah.
was so drained. I did not want to do content creation. But what really spoke to me was the private messages I was getting. Like people were like, "Hey, um, there was no newsletter this week. Hope everything's good. Hey, hope everything's good." But like, it went from wondering where FTI is and how FTI is doing to I had so many people messaging me about how I'm doing because I never viewed myself in like that. Like I'm important to these creators because they're more my friends than they are creators to me.
Mhm.
Because I think the one thing that sets me apart from like a promoter is I make sure at the end of the day I'm friends first with these guys instead of being like I guess helping their artistic path or like their hobby. So getting all these messages of like, hey, hope you're doing good, Merry Christmas, yada yada yada. And then in December of last year, I was on the Megamet Studios podcast because he was somebody I trusted just to like say like, "Hey dude, I just want to shoot the shit with somebody. I just want to talk about FTI with somebody because I really feel like for the close tight knit community that was actually wondering where it goes, they like kind of like deserve an answer." Um and so I do that podcast and in the friendliest, but, like, the creepiest way, it felt like I was reading things about me, like I was dead and I was reading it from the afterlife. Cause like, Ero and Artie and LD, like, were writing, like, these loving messages, but it was talking about me almost in, like, the past tense, and then I got so many DMs on Instagram and Twitter, and it's just like, for example, Eternal Weasel messaged me, he's like, "Hey, buddy, hope you didn't forget about me. I hope you know I didn't forget about you," or something along those lines, and I was just like, this is so weird. So
That's nice though.
I
That's pretty nice that these people that like were no, that is like that is the one cool thing about it, that it's like it is friends first, because there is no money involved in
yeah,
this. Like nothing is being exchanged. So it's like it is fun that it's just like, oh, it's just people that like wanted to entertain, basically. Wanted to entertain or like do
exactly.
some sort of art form. And it's like, well, there's enough people here that's like you can find common interests. And even if it's like not really like friendship, it's still like, oh well, it's like people that like want to meet new people too. It's like a very
Yeah,
like it's very mingling, it's just very social. It's like we know like we're not gonna make like any money out of it. We're not gonna try and like, and that's the nice thing. There is sort of like we've always tried to not like be we've always tried to like be very self-aware with it and be like, we're not gonna do like algorithm, we don't really care about the algorithm. We're just gonna try and make what we have.
you'll never win anyways with the
No,
algorithm.
exactly. So
Like,
it's like for stuff like this, you obviously have to have like side plans and like what you're doing, but it's like then it makes the hobby more fun and makes it seem more real when there is something like this where you can talk to people who are doing kind of the same thing, right?
yeah, and the crazy thing, like to this day, and it's kind of bad to say, but I can't figure out the way to say it. It's just like when somebody asks me what FTI is, I view it more as like a platform for like artists recognizing artists and like lifting them up too. So today,
Mhm.
for example, was the punk rock flea market, and like the few people that came by the table, I was almost stuttering on like what FTI is, because to me, it's just like artists supporting artists. But
You
when
should
you're
just say it's
talking, yeah,
machinima. Like, have you heard of machinima? We're
it's
basically
machinima,
we're
but we're
basically
here.
machinima. We pay less and we screw over our artists way harder. Like we blacklist them.
The moment you're in a newsletter, it was ours. And
Yeah.
actually, segueing to that, I think the craziest thing about the internet was when FTI left, all of the posts, of course, stayed up. And then this past July, I had like one of those like eureka moments in real life where it's just like, oh fuck, I need to get back to doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that was like helping people. Like I really enjoy, not
Mhm.
necessarily like saying like, oh, I'm the reason this happened. I just like in knowing that like I'm a people connector. So I was like I gotta do something, and if it's not bringing FTI back, it's doing something similar. So went to my computer. I was like, what can I do? And then everything just kind of aligned up with like bringing FTI back. But I was like, if I do that, I'm archiving everything. Like you can't access or you can't find anything from before our first post like a month ago saying FTI is back.
Really? I guess
Dude, it
I haven't dug around a little bit. There's so much because it's like, yeah, I guess I was gonna ask, like, do you ever think about how crazy it's been that it's been so long? Like, we've been doing this for a very long time. I've been doing this like 2020, it doesn't seem that long ago, but that's like 4 years of like doing stuff like this every week. Like every week was
yeah, man.
like checking in on like what you're doing, checking in on like what some other like content creators doing. There every month there was like some weird thing. We have like all the like concept albums and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
No,
Was there
yeah, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
I was gonna say, was there anything that like you ever tried to plan? Because I feel like you and me maybe do the same thing where we're like we have a crazy fun idea and then it just kind of either it just seems like oh it's like oh this is gonna be way too much effort actually, and then you
You
just
know,
never do it.
You know what's actually insane, man, is during the first stint of FTI from 2020 to 2023, and I've said it many of times, was just like there was too many cooks in the kitchen to get a clear idea of what I wanted it to be. So like every idea I wanted to do, I had to like kind of get the approval of like entity Artie Grayson to do it. So
Mhm.
there was small things that never happened. Like for example, I wanted the newsletter to be finally like recorded, like entity recording himself, already recording herself. And as soon as I relaunched FTI and now it's like all me, like doing like I'm recording myself and everything. I'm hosting a concert in 2 weeks, which the FT if this would have happened last year or 2 years ago, I couldn't imagine the stress I would have put myself through. But
Yeah.
now that like no, like it sounds very rude for me to say it this way, but now that it's just me making the decisions, the only person that can tell me I can't do it is me. Because I went from doing an FTI redesign to actually getting Dylan Lorman of Couch to redesign everything to hosting a concert where we're expecting upwards of 80 people at it now, which is just like baffling because I felt like if I wanted to do anything like this 2 years ago, it would have been a lot more like, oh, that's just Matt Ryder's thing. Like I know FTI is going to be here next week, but now that I'm making everything like kind of like seem like an event and I'm doing some serious planning instead of last minute planning, nothing yet has been like, oh my god, I can't achieve that. It's been like, what are the small steps I can do to get to that?
So to clarify that, then I didn't really know. So was it like more of a? It was like a kind of a council then on like what content would be put out, like between you and Artie and some of the other members. Like, would you guys actually discuss before? Because I was under the impression most of it was just from you and based on what you wanted to put out.
Yeah, so like the best thing about working with Artie, Entity, and Grayson was they were always so receptive and they were always so like positive to like getting newsletters last minute, getting good mornings last minute. Like, but the one thing that we lacked on as a group, and they would agree with me, was coming up with new things to kind of freshen things up. So there was so many things that I know I wanted to do, and like I would even pitch to them in like a Discord call that it was always just met with like a that seems cool. Like, how can we do that? And I'd do it, and they're like, oh, wait, let's try that like down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember this one time I was talking with RD Grayson and Will during like the Indie Studio podcast, and I was like, by the way, like after like FTI's 3 year anniversary, I'd love to do like face to video. And then 4 months went by and we were still doing text to video. And I think that really fed into like the I need to make it fully mine.
Mm,
So
yeah.
this past September, jumping like a year ahead, I still had the group chat at the time. I just messaged them all in the group, and then I believe I messaged them all one on one, and I was just like, "Hey, I want you to know, like, I am bringing FTI back, but my vision is just going to be like for me, like I'm gonna bring it back, but I just want you to know that I'm not ignorant to what we've done for the last 3 years. That if you can ever think of anything that you want to collaborate on, ask. Like, let's just do it. But I just want you to know, like, now going forward, this is just gonna be me. Because knowing that, like, of course, like, I'm the person running the show, but also I'm the person approving something or saying, like, at a later date is so much more easier than presenting an idea in a boardroom and kind of being met with a, "Yeah, that's cool." So if Artie, Grayson, or Entity ever say like, "Hey, Matt, I have this idea. Like, we should do like an FTI like video all together," I'll be the first one to say, "Hell yeah, let's do it." Um,
Did you ever get vetoed by like fucking entity? Like where anyone's like, no, Matt, don't do that.
you know
Did
what's
that ever
really, you know what's
happen?
no, what's really awesome specifically about Entity is he is the most supportive, positive, the grass is always greener on the other side kind of things because like Entity has heard me like say like so many things like, brother, like the newsletters are getting like 20 views, and he's like, remember why you made FTI. But I was just like, I want to do this for the newsletter. He's like, if you can make it work where I could still record myself doing it and not have to show my face, let's do it. So he never flat out ever said like no.
But like,
He
I
just
mean, like,
always,
yeah, none of them. So it
yeah,
seemed like it was like a good then relationship then up until
they
that
like
point. Like,
that.
were they like no, like when no one was too upset when you were like, we're not working together anymore. It's just gonna be the Matt Ryder show. No.
Nobody ever gave me the answer that it was like how could you do this? But I think that's because when I sent the message, I tried to answer all of like the whys to what I'm doing. That like
Hmm.
if they had a question, for example, I'd always answer like this is why. This then
Right.
like that's why. But I think at the end of the day, going back to what we talked about a bit earlier, it was always friends first. So like say in a alternate reality, I was doing something for Artie, and then Artie just said, by the way, I think I want to take my stream my route instead of like working. I think in that situation, I would have probably went like, hell yeah, go for it. So it was always
Yeah,
friends first with them, um, which is
because I
really
know it.
cool because
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
no,
was gonna
you're
say
good.
I know with post unavailable, I'll think that the situation sometimes like back again, like back to it being like a LARP, it would be like I'd be messaging the Discord, I'd be messaging like or just the group being like, guys, like I don't know, like if the episode's gonna come out or not. I don't know like what's gonna happen. And it would just be like Basie and Marchin hitting me with like this isn't real. This isn't like a real thing. Like
Yeah, yeah.
do whatever the fuck you want. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if you relate to that at all with just kind of how the situation because again, like a lot of it is like it's not as serious as it is, but it is fun to get into that thing of like, oh no, they're like, I want to make this sort of a network of people and I want people to have ideas and I want people to collaborate. And I want because like everyone wants to do something, everyone wants to like put forward something, so you just kind of have to provide that platform for it. So like it is easy to take seriously.
And
So
mind you, I think like their opinions mattered a lot to me because they
mhm.
also did it for free. They
Mhm.
like because I guess FTI of course is and was at the time too a free platform that they were doing it out of the goodness of their hearts and like their compensation was just like kind of meeting other people from the community, but it was a lot easier for them to like go into a YouTube comment section, go into like a Twitch chat and like be recognized. So I could be entirely wrong, but like that's where I viewed the compensation because when I said like this is like a weekly volunteer thing, there was never like a we'll eventually be paid, right? Like they did it for people that they were.
The exposure bucks. You're paying them in
Yeah, and like
exposure
that's the
tickets.
worst thing to hear when like it's taken out of context, but like if you're in FTI, it like it makes sense.
Mhm.
Um 'Cause, like, like, us 4, we were putting in the fucking work, like, week in and week out. Um, but, like, mind you, FTI is brand new to being back. I can definitely see a lot more down the line in terms of, like, doing things together. It's just if it happens, it's more of a collaboration rather than an FTI crew.
I mean, it's the same Discord, right? So it's everyone's still on board. Like, do you feel because for me, like, I feel like a lot of the people that were still in that Discord and still doing stuff, I don't know like how much mobility people have had sort of like away from that. So I feel like people are going to be pretty receptive to having like a network again where it's just like, oh, cool. If I do ever want to feel like picking up content creation again, I do have this net that I used to have is back up and running. So, and also like I never really viewed it as being super dead. Like obviously like newsletters weren't coming up, but I think like we had stopped kind of no like no offense to you, but like we stopped giving you
Yeah.
stuff because it was like our schedules weren't as tight and like we just wanted to kind of not really have the pressure of like sending stuff in. So for me it was like I'm just gonna like I'll put together the clips myself because it'll just be I can do it on my own schedule. I don't have to like worry about someone else. Um
Yeah.
right. And which is like kind of usually the best way to do these things, especially if it's like again uh not for profit kind of hobby. Um
Yeah.
but I think like it was cool that like again like discords in the community were so it's like we reached out to like Nahome a few times. We I would still look at the Discord and just like see what like people were posting and like the YouTube and stuff. Because there's like a ton of people on it, and it's like not again, it's not dead. It's like if people are doing content creation, they're gonna look at that as a resource, which I think was cool.
Yeah, I know, I entirely agree. Since coming back though, like in beginning of October with like an actual like fresh relaunch and like actually having like a mascot and like a theme and like everything like looks attractive from the outside looking in. This is the most engagement FTI's ever got. This is the most attention FTI's ever got. And the way I view it is how does this translate to people that I see on like the day to day, like my friends and family who aren't
Hmm.
content creators, who aren't doing like anything in like the creating art realm? How does it view to them? And like I want to tell you, like 30% of the people who've bought tickets for the FTI relaunch concert are people who never like checked out FTI in the first 3 years. So
Yeah,
it's fine. It's finally being built into something where it's more seen as it's for everybody instead of nailing to home that like you'll only ever see creators and artists in this community. It's like an
No,
everybody community.
that's really cool. Yeah, well, I mean, like if it when it becomes more of a tangible thing and you have a actual sort of outlet for this, like being this concert, um,
Yeah,
it makes what you're doing seem more real, especially when you can put
yeah.
like name on it. Um, which is awesome. That's sick, man. Because that's good. Like
I'm
when we were deciding, like when I was deciding to bring it back, so I was like, I want something to do. I want to talk to my friends, but then I'm like, but I also kind of want to do what it I wanted to do a long time ago, which was like do one-offs like this, which is like what we tried to do. Like when we would bring you on for an episode, we'd bring like other people around for episodes. Like I wanted to do like more fun stuff than just like we're gonna talk about fucking Pokemon for an hour this week, right? Like
yeah,
which is
yeah.
which is like even like the guys don't want to do that every week too. But like if I have something fun like or one-off stuff, then it's like okay, well, it's exciting. It's more of an event, which is what I think
Agreed.
we're trying to do too. But also like keeping it casual. I think like that's the important thing too. It's just like letting people meet you at your own at a sort of finding a rhythm with people that you work with.
Yeah.
Because I
No,
think like I think
sorry, go on.
small town content creation isn't as like high speed as we might think it can be.
I really enjoy that, like, for example, like, what we're recording right now was a
Mhm.
lot more relaxing and chill going into instead of, like, saying, like, "Hey, Matt, like, episode 10 of this podcast I wanna do, and I want you to be the guest, and I wanna talk about A, B, and C." So, since I had, like, a week to, like, build up to being on it, I'd have to, like, make sure, like, prepare for questions that might come up and like talk about something specifically. But like when you texted me yesterday, like, hey, like, how do you feel about a collaboration? I was like, brother, like, I'll just
Mhm.
come on, shoot the shit, and let's just record it. I'm down for whatever.
Yeah, we're trying to do more one-offs like this, just keep it more casual. Um, what else was I gonna ask? Oh yeah, was there anything like because FTI there was speaking of like the content creators on there, there's like so many. Like when I go on the whatever like YouTube because you have different channels where it's like people post whatever they're working on. Do you ever like
Yeah.
vet anything? Like, do you ever go through and be like, we can't have this fucking guy or we can't put this guy on or has there ever been anything
So
like that?
nothing to that nothing to
Mhm.
that. Sorry. The only thing that is going to be like an actual, like, kind of like rule set in stone, like rule also probably a better term other than rule, but everything is going to have its place. Because I know when we were doing FTI, like we would put whoever and whatever in a newsletter, but that was more so to fill like the content gap or like to fill a slot that needed to be filled. But
Mhm.
with the new timeline that we're gonna have is like Monday is gonna be we celebrate a creator and that whole week's dedicated to the creator. So then Friday is like the grand finale of the creator of the week for that week. So they're gonna be on a podcast. So for example, Monday would be like Couch Apparel. I talk about Couch Apparel for a minute 30. All week you learn about Dylan Lorman, and then Friday you just tune into a podcast to hear about him. But there's going to be like an outlet for people such as you where if you're not the creator of the week you can just take advantage of the Discord, you can take advantage of like sending me a clip to put on Twitter. That I will say, if you're looking to get your stuff on an Instagram story, you need to make me care. Like, I've had some email submissions lately where people just seem so miserable talking about the stuff they make. So, like, if you're miserable recording yourself talking about something you're putting out, you need to kind of be self-aware of how that's gonna reflect to a community. So, there's definitely gonna be, like, a standard, but it's not like an ultra high standard. It's just gonna kinda be like, make your promotional video you send for us to put on the story as exciting as what you're releasing. So if you're gonna make a YouTube video about, say, fucking Pokemon, don't like record yourself like I'm on the other end, like staring at you, like deadpan in the face. Tell us, tell the FTI.
Who's sending you these videos? Like
I will
inmate?
not
Like what?
disclose. Yeah. I think it's because, and it could be my fault, is our link tree has like a how to be featured in an FTI story kind of
Oh,
thing.
okay.
And since it's like public facing,
Interesting.
anybody can click. Like if you just like send a video in, the part of me always hopes that like the creator or like the musician will like want to be like, hey guys, like this Friday I'm dropping this track and like go check it out. Like the themes are A, B, and C. And then you're like, yo, like I want to check that track out. That guy seems so excited.
Mhm.
But you just need to kind of like put your own like twist and enthusiasm on it. So in the link tree, it literally says, please know the more personable these are, the more chance it will have being repeated on our story.
No wieners. That's what you're
No
saying.
wieners. No, well, like if you like blur it out, like we can talk about it, but like no full fledged wieners.
No full, yeah, no full frontal.
No full frontal.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So but okay, well, it's good to know then there's no other rules, then we can just break whatever we want.
Yeah, man.
We'll
Like
go.
I feel
No,
like
I'm
after
just
knowing each other for about 10 years, the and if we've promoted post unavailable through like 1 through 150, I feel like we pretty much touched the base on what I'm willing to promote with you guys.
yeah, man. No, it stuff like that was always fun. I was always um I'm disappointed that you didn't say that the project you wish you released was whatever I've recorded voice lines for, where we were like the entity bringing them in or whatever that was. Do you remember what
Oh,
that was?
dude, you know what I really wish happened way back when, but I just like I ultimately just like got like frustrated was the original concept for Welcome Inside. I think that was it
Yeah.
where it was
What was
kind
the
of like
one?
the
What
story you
was the one where
told.
like yeah, it was what was the one where it was text boxes and I was there was like someone it was like Grayson, Artie, Entity, maybe Ero. I remember I
Yeah.
recorded like these it sounded like I think I was trying to do like The Watcher or like Professor X or some shit. Like a cosmic entity bringing them in. And I don't even remember what that was for, but I was like, "Oh man, that never came out."
I gotta figure that out because there was a few group things like from different
Yeah.
creators that never came out.
There's so many
Um,
things. Yeah.
like the one that I will always miss was the original idea for Welcome Inside, which was like after every song, like the story continued. But
Mm,
putting
yeah.
that together was so hard, and then when we went to upload it on, like, streaming, you couldn't upload it on streaming if the songs were already existing elsewhere, and it was like a compilation mixtape, so, like, every song on that
Yeah.
album was already released.
That's kind of like
Um,
that I relate to that as like a roadblock of just like trying to upload something and then just running into one technical problem like, nah, you can't upload like a 2-hour video or just like your computer's run out of storage or something. And it's like, well, I'm not getting fucking paid for this. So this project that I've like pretended I've like announced it to my audience or whatever. And like I've like told all my friends, like I've said, like, we're gonna do this. And then if like one thing like that happens, I'll be like, actually, fuck this. Like, it's
yeah,
not coming out. And it's not I guess the nice thing about it just being a hobby is that there isn't really like that much there's not that much backlash or like repercussions for it. It's just kind of like, all right, well, we'll just try the next thing.
I think I've always been really good at making sure if I've said something with passion and enthusiasm that if I didn't release it, A, I had a backup, or B, people saw some form of it later.
Yeah.
Because I've pretty much, of course, like other than like the small handful of projects, there was always something that followed suit that was similar or a more toned down version. Because although Welcome Inside was like a story driven narrative that quickly turned into a post unavailable opens 8 tracks, I think Grayson closed, turned into a fully original album 3 months later that actually made it to stream.
Mhm.
So, like,
No,
prod projects like that actually came to fruition, but there was definitely things where I know I talked about it, like Welcome Inside, having, like, a vinyl, a CD, and a cassette release just couldn't happen because we weren't allowed to do so many commercial things with it because the songs were owned elsewhere. The beats were owned elsewhere. Um, so when I knew FTI was coming back this past August, I was very specific with the group of people I actually told about it in case I just at the last minute said no. But the moment I got the final logo and the moment I knew I had the concert venue secured, I was like, no, we're running with this because I've told a few people I have everything, I have all the resources at my disposal. I'm announcing it. So now people can hold me accountable, as you said, for a tangible thing. Because if I were to cancel the concert 2 weeks out now, not only would I feel like shit, the people who are excited because I made them excited would also hold me accountable for canceling last second.
Yeah. No, and that's like the most fun part about that. I think like when you it is like there's a certain line of like this is all friend based. It's all based on like who friends are. But then once you start doing stuff that's like a little actually structured and outside of that, it's like, okay, no, now I actually have that like gut responsibility and also obligation to, people and real things. Because with the post unavailable, I could always just like when it's just with the guys, if we're not doing an episode this week, because it's like I just woke up that day and I'm like, don't fucking want to. It just
Yeah,
then we just not do it. But then it's fun to reach out to people and try to get people involved that are kind of outside of our circle because then it's like, oh no, then it's like forces you to they are believing in you that this is like a real thing. So it's like
yeah,
then you have to like answer that obligation. So I'm sure like for the FDI concert, it's that on like a grander scale. It's like no, people actually are invested in this product and this brand
yeah,
now,
man.
and then it's gonna be like it's gonna have output. Do you want to speak? I guess just like we'll wrap it up here, but do you want to kind of give a little explanation of what you've got going on then with that?
Yeah, man. So first off, pretty full circle moment being able to do this again. I really like how both Post Unavailable and FTI came back like around the same time.
Yeah,
I
and we didn't plan that either. Like me and Amanda got settled in like in September-ish, and then I was like, "Oh man, I gotta miss like obviously I want to talk to the guys back home, but then like why don't we just keep doing the show, but try to do it more live action," which I hope doesn't
yeah,
come back to bite me. Do you ever wonder like, or do you ever like run into this with like other people, maybe not you specifically, but like people involved with your with the network that like if content creation is fun, but like the more I put myself out there, the harder it is to gonna be if like this doesn't work out and I'm trying to like get jobs anywhere.
with FTI, famous last words, I feel like I'm at a good safe spot because like I've built this reputation with FTI where like people know me as the first person to help anybody with their art and their content and like just essentially be a second voice for you. But the other side of that is for 3 years, I never wanted to do anything front facing. Like, if there was, like, a video idea I had in mind or, like, a voice narration, I would just get somebody else to do it because I didn't wanna do it. So, when I came back to do FDI, I was just like, if I'm dedicating myself to, like, record these videos and reels, I have to know that I will be judged by people who follow, like, me on, like, my regular Instagram, so, like, my friends and family, and there's going to be people who may not like it, may think it's happening way too frequently, and if it were to cost me any opportunities, I would be surprised because I feel like from now until the day I die, I'm always going to be involved in like a creative space. But tomorrow, if I want to do like a suit and tie and briefcase job, there would probably be kind of like a, hey, we found a YouTube channel, an Instagram page, and a TikTok page where it does not align with our suit and tie, blue collar fucking logistics. Sorry, you don't get the job.
Yeah, I feel like that happens less these days and also depends like how much you put into it yourself into it. I know for you like you are like it's you, it's not like a pseudonym or anything. Cuz I feel
Yeah,
like for us like we put our names in it. We said our name. I think like for the first pretty much majority of the show like we would say our like first names and last names. I think now we're face it's our face but like we're a little bit more I try to be a little bit more careful with just like saying it, but also I think we reached a point where all of us are kind of just don't care, even though like we are probably gonna like end up working for the government, and I'm gonna be on like a board. It's still just like, well, you know what? At least like from the outside, it doesn't look that bad. It just looks like we're making stuff. Like it's just
Yeah,
like our hobby outside of it. It's not like we're doing any like crazy viral like pranks or
yeah,
anything. At the
you're not
worst, we're
hurting
being
anyone.
like a little bit racist as a joke
Jeez, jeez,
sometimes when we're talking about
jeez.
like Mario's balls or something like that. Like that's as bad as it's gonna get. It's just like, yeah. And it's also the
I
most
uh
low effort thing you can do. A
I
podcast.
f- I find that if post unavailable were to ever be anything conflicting to you guys doing it, it would have definitely happened with an early episode that would have given you guys like a red flag, like, hey, by the way, this could affect something, but like that's probably not a thing even to worry about anymore.
Yeah, I think if you go back and listen to like early stuff, it'd be like, oh no, these guys were just they were doing good. They were saying the right stuff. But it's satire, you know. There's always that element to it. Anyways, yeah, if you want to, what was I gonna say? Do you want to just like give a quick rundown of what this concert is gonna be
Of
for
course.
anyone in the
Yeah.
area?
I'll get back on the tracks. So
Yeah,
on Friday, November 8th, FTI is having its relaunch concert. It's going down at the Underground slash Taboo in Guelph. For the Guelph fights here, it is under Trappers, but the nice thing about it being under Trappers is we don't get the Trappers crowd to come down there, which means it's strictly for people wanting to check out independent artists. And on the stage, we're going to have Average James, we're going to have Emerson Corleone, and we're going to have Shoop. And for vendors, you're going to have Couch Apparel, Pressed by Nick, and you're going to have myself with the FTI table, so we can also introduce you to FTI in person instead of an Instagram page. And then tickets right now are $15. At the door, it will be 20, and it's a 19 plus event. So if you are under the age of 19, I am so sorry, but this event will not be for you. But if you're over 19, come out for a good night.
if you're under 19, go back up to Trappers. They'll probably let you in,
They would let you in.
and you'll probably get lucky because there's probably a predator waiting for that exact thing. So no, that sounds awesome. I wish I was there for it. Um, it's great. We're always happy to get on the FDI circle, get on the circuit again, and I'm excited for more stuff to happen. I think like
Yeah, man.
just keeping it casual, and I think the trick to this is just like take some of the pressure off. Like that's just the advice that I can give to you that I've given myself, because it's just there's always time to do this. There's always going to be time to do this. We don't have
Yeah.
Machinima on us looking
No.
for content. We don't have Rooster Teeth being like, "Where's the fucking video?" You know, once you take ownership over that, and then you just go at your own pace, it makes this a lot more fun. Which
It
it
is.
has been. Which this has been very fun. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming on. Now, usually I would ask Basie what we're doing next week. So, Matt, if you want to tell me what I'm going to talk about next week, man, it would help me out a lot.
Yeah, man. So next week you are going to talk about why there are so many Canadians who don't know the first thing about politics, being so invested in the U.S. election. Because I really feel like I'm reading some tweets from Canadians who don't know the first thing about politics.
Yeah, we're gonna go on Facebook and we're gonna read Matt Ryder's whole family's just comments,
Ah,
CNN posts and CBC posts and Rick and Morty Facebook
you
posts, and
know
just see what
what?
their
Actually,
comments are, and we're just gonna kind
you
of view
could
them that way. Yeah,
you could
go
probably
ahead.
make a whole episode out of just the Cotton Guelph Facebook page, just the people who post in there.
Yeah, I love any local. We're in it's called Aylesbury in England, and we're on like the everything Aylesbury. It's like they're basically their Cotton Guelph, and it's just some of
Yeah.
the funniest. Just it's all like
Yeah.
old ladies with nothing to do, just posting about like,
Nosy.
does anyone want to play with my granddaughter? And it's like, who do you think is on this website?
Man,
who's
send her
joined
to
in this
school.
group? Yeah. So I love stuff like that. Either way, though, great to have you on,
Thank you,
Matt
brother.
Ryder. Where can people find FTI right now?
Main hub at From the Inside Studios. Twitter hub is at FTI_studios because Elon Musk thinks From the Inside Studios is too many characters. But I digress. And then on November 8th, you can find me making sure that you're having a good time at the FTI relaunch.
Excellent. All right. You can find Post Unavailable on the same stuff, except for Twitter. We don't do that. I've got too much stuff going on. But we are on TikTok. We're on Instagram. And those are the big ones. Oh, and YouTube. YouTube's fun. We're uploading more stuff to there now.
Hell yeah.
We're catching up on all the shorts. So we'll see you guys soon. And we'll see you soon as well.